Wifey in the bay going crazy. Put peace on the hood Mercedes. Young boys letting off 80. Leaning next to a DR like Haiti. This ain't no Porter, no Bailey. No internet clown gon' play me. Money ain't never gon' make me. I can win with a couple bucks like Brady. And she ain't baby, you cannot shame me. What they gon' pay me to shut my mouth? Ain't gotta okay me, then they gon' save me. I'm finna stay free on the house.
Honestly, if it were up to me, worship should actually, it's not a musical genre. Worship is it's not this like category that we have just placed to win Dove Awards and Grammys and all this thing. Worship is a life, how we live our life.
You stepping on some toes now.
It is Romans 12. It is living our lives, surrendering our lives as living sacrifice unto the Lord. It is presenting ourselves pure and holy.
My goodness.
And it literally says right after that, this is worship.
Yes.
So it's actually not the music. When Paul in Ephesians talks about the ministries, the fivefold ministries that we have received, worship leader is not one of them. Right. It's actually not even, that is a modern position that we have given.
Talk easy.
The church.
Talk easy. We see corporate worship in scripture, but we don't see worship leader.
Yes. We see apostle, we see evangelist, we see prophet, we see pastor, we see, what's the fifth one? One of them. Teacher.
Yeah.
And these are the things that we should be operating in, but seeing worship as this goes just along what you said, that seeing this person that is leading us in worship as more than just a mailman. Because the Bible doesn't even name them.
Can I, Siri? I'm getting so excited right now because you brought up Romans 12, and we have to go there. We gotta take some time.
Let me flip. Let me flip there. It's
Okay, before we do that, are you familiar with so there are different tools you need to help you interpret scripture.
Yeah.
And one of the tools is called law of first mention. And what law of first mention means is whenever you see a word or a concept for the first time, that's the most accurate depiction of what that word is trying to say or what that concept is all about. People don't know this. The first time the word worship comes into scripture, the first time worship comes into picture, right? If we're thinking about the law of first mention, you find it in Genesis. God tells Abraham, I want you to go and sacrifice Isaac.
Yep.
All right. Abraham quickly obeys because delayed obedience is disobedience. He doesn't even talk to his wife about it. He gets up the next morning. Isaac, his servant, and him pack up their bags and go up a mountain.
Yeah.
And Abraham is going to sacrifice Isaac. Mind you, Abraham is not going to sacrifice sin. He's not going to sacrifice disobedience. He's going to sacrifice the promise.
Yeah.
Right? They get to a certain point in the mountain, and Abraham tells the servant, you stay here. Me and Isaac are going to go handle business.
Yeah.
The servant asks Abraham, where are you going? To which Abraham responds, I'm going to worship the Lord. Abraham is going to sacrifice Isaac. Remember, law first mention. This is the first time you see the word worship in the Bible.
Yes.
In the very first book, Genesis. It's Siri, it's not at a conference.
No.
It's not a song. It's not a worship event. It's like the first time you see the word worship, Abraham is going to sacrifice his son whom he loves, his only son.
Yeah.
And I think this is such a fascinating thing. And I think this is so mind-boggling because we have reduced worship to a feeling. We have reduced worship to a bridge. We have worship to an experience, to a vibe, to a mood, to an ambiance. And in the scripture, worship is sacrifice.
Yeah.
The first time you see the word worship, Abraham is going to give up the one he loves the most,
Yeah.
Isaac. And fast forward to Romans chapter 12, the reason why this is essential, when Paul tells I love Romans 12:1. It says, in view of God's mercy, offer your life as a living sacrifice. This is your good and pleasing worship before the Lord. Something along those lines, I paraphrase. In view of God's mercy, I'm going to get real preachy. You got to excuse me. This is like the pastor in me. It just comes out sometimes.
I love it.
Paul spends 11 chapters, Romans 1 through Romans 11, breaking down the gospel. God's plan, man's sin and failure, God's heart for salvation, grace coming into the picture, grace being our salvation. And then around 7, he's like, does this mean that we should go on sinning? By no means, right? That's Romans 6, by no means. That's like Romans 6, that's what I hear, by no means. Yeah. He literally spends 11 chapters breaking down the history, breaking down God's plan from the very beginning, breaking down how we got here. Abraham, by one man, or not Abraham, Adam, sin came into the picture, but then by one man, Jesus, we see redemption, right? So he spends 11 chapters breaking down the gospel. And in chapter 12, he says, in view of the gospel, in view of this mercy, live a life of sacrifice. What's so fascinating to me about this series is he doesn't say, in view of how your week went, in view of your season. Paul doesn't say, in view of your financial situation. He doesn't say, in view of your relational situation. Are you single, dating, married? He doesn't say, in view of your age. He doesn't say, in view of your position. He says, worship has absolutely nothing to do with you. Worship has nothing to do with your season. Worship has nothing to do with what God did for you and what he didn't do for you. Worship has everything to do with what Jesus did for you. If you're having a hard time living a life of sacrifice, you need to go back to seeing how Jesus sacrificed for you.
Oh, right? Yeah.
And I think that's such a profound message, because worship can be a song, but songs are an expression of worship. They're not worship. Songs are just an extension of worship. It's not worship in itself. Like out of a life surrendered to Jesus, we offer song, we offer praise, we offer pray, right? But you can't say that I sang 3 songs today at church. I've done my worship for the week. Worship is how you engage on Instagram. Worship is what you do with your finances. Worship is how you honor your mother and father. Worship is how you honor your job and your manager at work. Worship is how much time you spend on Netflix. Worship is your lifestyle. It's a sacrifice, and it's in view of what he's done for you. And I just think it's fascinating that we've missed the point of worship. And we've reduced it to a vibe and a moment, an experience, an emotion, the lights. And now we've reduced it to we've got to have the right artists come out, because if so-and-so doesn't come, then we can't worship the Lord.
This isn't real life. I got a real life. Christ is better, and it ain't no doubt. I ain't got time to debate. There's countries to save. Afghanistan, Cuba, I pray.